Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Live Team Alliance training session for Monday, June 24th. Time right now is approximately 9:38 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Before we get started with training, as usual, I would like to welcome our new students, those of you who are with us tonight, whether you're live in attendance or you're watching the replay of this. You have definitely made a wise decision choosing to train here with us on Team Alliance. There's going to be a great deal of information that you're going to learn about the market. Even more so, you're going to learn a lot about yourself in the training process. And the reason that I say that is because your levels of patience and discipline are going to be not only tested, but they're going to be revealed to you. And it's not what you think at all. Most people think that they have patience. They don't. Most people believe that they have discipline. They do not. What you have is a potential to cultivate your patience and discipline, but I assure you that at this point you have very little, if any. And that's not, it's not the end of the world and, oh man, what am I going to do? It's not like that. It's just that those two things specifically are imperative when it comes to trading, because without them you cannot be profitable long term. You're going to do too many things that will cause you to lose money without patience and without discipline. And it's so easy to do. So patience and discipline are the only two things that can keep you from doing idiotic, foolish things. And as you train and as you become more acclimated with the market, you'll understand for yourself what that means. The market is like a mirror, and what it does is it shows you who you are. It's going to reveal you to yourself. And that is powerful information because it means that you're now in position to rectify the fact that you don't have the levels of patience and discipline necessary to be successful as of yet. But you are now in the right environment in order to cultivate patience and discipline. So, in other words, you're in the right place. And you're going to develop what's necessary, and you will be successful at what it is that we do, okay? The key to it is to just train. That's it. Like, just keep training. I can honestly say the more that you obsess over it, the more successful and the faster things will happen. I'm not saying that you have to do that. For me personally, I've always been very passionate about, the markets. And it's always been very appealing to me, so I've obsessed over it. And as a result of that, things have opened up, and my understanding has opened up dramatically over the years. So at this point, I don't understand anything less than that. And it's the reason why I continuously, am successful at this, and I'm very consistent. So I'm just an example for you to basically get an idea of what it looks like when you become successful at trading and when you're very consistent. And you're going to learn while you're here how not to lose in the market, period. So, we're not here to learn a strategy. You're not going to learn a method. It's not something that, is an isolated thing that, I'm just going to apply this and I'm going to start winning. What you're going to apply is your focus. What you're going to begin to apply is the execution of the process that you're going to learn. So understand that you're learning a process. You're not learning a method or a strategy. Methods and strategy are simply ways to curve fit the market. And you cannot do that because all it is you recognizing some type of pattern in the market, and you keep applying that recognition, the pattern recognition that you have seen. You keep applying that to different markets. What do I mean by that? The market is different all the time. Even though it's the same, it's not the same. What do I mean by that? Environment. The environment of the market changes. The behavior of the market changes. Whether the market is stable or not stable, it changes. I've just mentioned 3 things. The first 3 things that I mentioned are things that people probably don't even understand what I'm talking about. If I ask you right now, what's environment? You probably have no idea yet. If I mention behavior, you're like, what are you talking about? If I say, well, the market is not stable, you're like, well, what does that mean? And as you should not understand, because these are things that are not taught to you until now. Now this is going to be taught to you, and it's going to be used by you in order to win consistently. All right, so if you have not received the playlist as of yet, and I'm aware that some of you have not, I'm not sure if Corey made it over here, but if Corey is here, I don't think I sent it to him yet. I think one other person may not have it. But either way, I'll make sure that you get that by the end of the training. And if you are here, just remind me that you don't have it yet, and I'll be just, to double check, and I'll make sure that you get the playlist before training is over. So anyway, inside of that playlist, video number 336 and video number 301, those are the 2 trainers that you want to begin with. Is he talking about the app? I'm not sure if he's talking about the app. Okay, I guess he's talking about that. All right. So we're going to get into some actual training. So I'm going to just go through a brief explanation of and an overview of the platform that we use. So this is the Nadex platform that we're using to trade on. What we trade is binary options. Specifically, we trade 5-minute binary options. And what this means is that these options expire every 5 minutes on the platform. You can see up here where it says time left. See that clock? Keeps counting down. When that goes to 0, this set of options, which are up here to the left where my mouse is, this area is called the binary ladder. And it's called that because you can see that the actual option strike prices, they stair-step down. So, for example, 53, 51, 49, 47, 45. So, they represent price levels in the market, okay? And each of them is like a line in the sand. As a matter of fact, they literally are lines on the chart. Each of these strike prices are reflected down here in this area on the chart by the black horizontal lines going across. And they represent the line in the sand for purposes of the binary and who will win or lose the binary. Now, what do I mean by that? If you take this binary right here, for example, this is the 2749. This line right here where my mouse is, the 2749 is the one up here in the middle where it says 2749. And by the way, the market that we're watching is the GBP USD, or the Great British Pound versus the US dollar. That's the market that we watch in particular. If you have a Forex background and there's a different market that you prefer, as long as it's available under 5-minute options, you can look at the market of your choice. But I recommend that you only stick to one. So if you like a different market, that's fine, but you need to stick to that one market, because every one of these markets has its own set of nuances and behaviors, and you need to understand all of it. You need to become acclimated with the market that you're watching and observing and studying, okay? Now, so these strike prices represent these lines. So the 2749 is the one up here in the middle. It's this one right here. If we just looked at that for a moment, that's the line in the sand. Right now, the market is positioned above the line. And what that means is if you bought this option, if you bought it, if the price remains above this line by the time this clock goes to 0, it means that you'll win this trade. And you'll earn the profit on the option, of course, based on the price that you pay for the option. So the price that you pay for the option determines the amount of money that you earn on the option, but where the market ends determines if you win the trade. Okay? So in order for you to win, if you're buying, price has to remain above this line. Okay? That's how it works. Now, because of that, instead of you trying to pick options and use stuff like risk-reward ratios, you know, what I mean by that is once you understand how the platform works and how the pricing on the options work, you know, intellectually, your first mind, that's so old school for me to say that, but people know what I'm talking about. Your first thought process is, I want to get the best risk-reward ratio. In other words, if I'm risking $50, I want to be able to make 50. This is how you're thinking. In order for you to do that, you would need to be precise with where the market is going to end. Not where it's moving, but where it's going to end at. You understand? So that means that wherever the price ends is going to determine if the direction that you chose wins. So for you to get a 1-to-1 risk-reward, meaning that if you risk 50, you make 50, in order for you to do that, the bottom line is that you still have to be correct about where the price ends. This is the problem, though. You don't know where the price is going to end at all. You just don't know. So by the time you enter into that type of trade, you try to get an at-the-money trade going, the price is going to be either somewhere near the line or is even going to be underneath the line if you're trying to buy to get that $50 risk reward. You see what I'm saying? So in other words, the price is not going to be in your favor when you enter that trade. It's going to be out of favor. So what you're anticipating and hoping for is that the price actually moves, and not only moves, but it stays after it moves relative to your line in the direction of where you actually selected that trade. So if you bought, for example, you probably bought when price was under the line in order to get the 1-to-1. But by the time the price ends, it got to move over the line and stay there. So you see all of the stuff that the market has to do in order for you to win? This is why it's as rewarding as it is. That's why if you win the $50. But if you lose, which is much easier to do, you're going to lose the $50. You see? So it's not about risk reward. Because in order for you to do that, your precision has to be immaculate with the timing. See, with binaries, this is about timing. It's not about the way that you are, used to seeing a Forex trade set up. With a Forex trade, you're trying to anticipate the right direction. So you're following some type of trend because the further in that direction that the market moves, the more money you make. That's not the case here with binaries at all. Nobody cares how far it moves. You got to be right about where it ends. So that means that your timing has to be precise. And if your timing is not precise, you will lose. This is the predicament that everyone finds themselves in. So what we do here is instead of trying to go for risk reward and all of that other stuff that everybody else is doing, who basically are losing consistently because they still don't understand the market, so they're trying to set up trades that look good, but they don't understand the market, so you might as well just literally flip a coin. You probably do better just flipping a coin every time that you trade. Heads buy, tails sell. Just do that and you'll be fine. Because that's the equivalent of what everybody else is already doing who try to trade that way. Instead of doing that, we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to just, first of all, sit back, stop looking at trying to pick trades, and we're going to actually observe the market itself. We're going to look at the market. Well, what do you mean, Mark? What's the market? The market is what you see on this platform as indicative price. This number right here, the one that's moving. Okay? Indicative price is the king. The market, that's the market. You're going to understand how to interpret what that's doing. Why? Why does that even matter? Because wherever that ends is going to decide who wins and loses all of these trades, every last one of them. Wherever this ends is going to decide the winner and the loser. So it has nothing to do with the trade you picked. It has more to do with the timing of the price of the market and where it is relative to where it's going to be. Your timing got to be correct when it comes to interpreting that information. So you don't have to pick out trades. You have to be right about the timing of when you take a trade. Does that make sense? In other words, the environment of the market and the behavior of the market have to be something that you're able to pinpoint to know whether or not right now is the good time to take the trade. Not, oh, is this a good trade? Rephrase your question. Reframe your thinking. Stop thinking, is it a good trade? That's not the question. The question is this a good time? And in order to arrive at that answer, you need to interpret the market. That's how you know whether it's a good time or not. By interpreting the environment and the behavior of the market. Ultimately, what those two things do is they let you know that you are in a stable environment. And when the market stabilizes, that's when we start to cash in. That's the very first part of us cashing in and making money. Now, mind you, this is all information that the market gives to us. Nobody has to tell us when to do this. We do it. We look, we observe, we study, we interpret, we come to the conclusion, and then we act accordingly. Most of the time, your action is going to be not trading. Well, Mark, I thought I was here to trade. You are here to trade, but you are here to win trades. Ain't nobody here to donate money to whoever's on the other side of the trade. I'm not doing that. I'm here to take somebody's money who don't know what they're doing on the other side of the trade. Understand that this is how this platform works. This is an exchange. Every trade that is taken on this platform has two sides, two parties. One person and maybe multiple people. Or let me rephrase. One group is buying and one group is selling. If you're buying, you're going to take the money from the people selling if you're right. If you're buying and you're wrong, you're going to give your money to the people selling. You see how that works? It's an exchange, not a broker. You don't have to try to worry about Nadex taking your money. That's not what we're here for. Nadex ain't thinking about you. The only thing that matters on this platform is the indicative price. Nadex make money every time you do something. Every time you buy or sell, they get a little fee. They good. This is a fair playing ground because you can actually compete against somebody else on the other side who's thinking the opposite of what you're thinking. And that's what we do. See, that's why we're not here to pick direction. We're not here to pick trades. We're not here to do none of that. We are here to interpret the market so that we have the judge on our side. Just think about it. Let's say you have a court case, right? But you know the judge. And the judge already told you who wins. What you call that? Oh, well, he knows the judge. Yeah. Know the judge very well. Judge told me I'm going to win. If I'm going to win, I'm putting my money in. Sometimes the judge will tell you, nah, you ain't going to win this, dog. All right, so I won't put no money in then. I keep my money in the account. The market is the judge. See, like, these analogies are very helpful because it helps you to understand the dynamic of the market and the dynamic of the way that it works on this platform. Understand the judge. Get to know the judge. Listen to the judge. The judge is talking to you. Judge said don't do nothing. Because if you do, you're going to jail. He said to relax. Don't do nothing. Oh, man, but I want to do something. All right, well, you're probably going to go to jail. In other words, you're going to lose your money. So if you think of it in terms of that, then you have way more respect for the market, and you'll have way more respect, and you'll put way more value on patience and discipline, because you understand that over time and over the long term, which is what I'm hoping that you're doing this for. I hope that you see this for what it is. This is a marathon. Don't nobody care how fast you can run. Matter of fact, you can walk. It's a marathon. Are you going to make it until the end? You see, that's what this is. So this is how your mindset has to be. That's why this training is conditioning you to understand it and then to execute this mindset, so that you don't do nothing else. And that's where the discipline comes in. You don't do anything else. Well, Mark, I didn't see a trade. You shouldn't have seen a trade. The market didn't tell us that there's a trade. Oh, okay. Well, when is the market going to tell us? I don't know. Why would I? If I knew that, I would have a crystal ball and wouldn't tell you nothing. I would just win all the trades myself if I knew that. I don't know. That's why we're watching and observing and studying. Are we going to know? Yeah. Well, when? I don't know. Just wait. See, like, this is how I end up talking, because this is how people ask questions to me. Well, Mark, when's the best time of the day to trade? What? Like, that question now at this point is so crazy to me, because I literally sound like a broken record when I answer that question. There is no best time of the day to trade. The only time I want to trade is when I'm going to win. How about you? This is how your thinking has to be. Has to be. So anyway, that's the basis of how the platform works. The binaries are simple. Buy, price has to end above the line. Sell, price has to end below the line. If you're right, you win. If you're wrong, you lose. So it's not because of Nadex, it ain't because of nobody else that you lost. It's because of you, your misinterpretation of the market, or just absence of interpretation for most people, because most people ain't interpreting nothing. They trying to get risk-reward trades. Oh, well, I have a great risk-reward on this trade. I don't care about your risk-reward. I'm not trading at all until I know I'm going to win. How about that? That's mine. And then people will, you know, they funny because they'll be like, yeah, well, what's the win rate? The win rate? What's your lose rate? That's what I should be asking you. What's your lose rate? It's high, ain't it? It's high. It's 100%, right? See, now I done gave you a idea. This is how you're gonna start talking to people too. You'll see what I'm talking about. Because these are the questions that people like to ask. They love it. Oh, well, what's the win rate? Nah. What's your lose rate? That's what the question is. And I already know the answer to the question. So, you know, I'm saying all of that just to simply say that the interpretation of the market is what we do. This is why we are going to be consistently profitable in the market. Now, in the beginning, it's going to seem like you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, because you're not going to be getting into a lot of trades, okay, if you're doing it right. If you're not doing it so right, and you're, you know, kind of deviating a little bit, breaking this and doing stuff and doing extra stuff, you'll be taking a bunch of trades. There's people now that do that. You know, they take a bunch of trades every day. And I understand that, you know, you're trying to practice, but the practice is really of the process. The practice is not taking trades. Because you need to understand why you took the trade, so that you can understand why you win or lose the trade. If you can't answer why you won thoroughly, you have no business being in the market at all, taking trades. If I ask you, well, you 5-0, so why did you win the first trade? What do you mean? Why did I win? Because it closed above the strike. That's not what I'm asking. I didn't say how you won. I know that it closed above the strike. But why? 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 Why did the market remain above the strike price at the time that you took the trade? What was the environment like? What was the behavior like? See, now we're getting somewhere. So if you can't respond according to that information, then you really don't know why you won the trade. You really don't know yet. So I would prefer for you to understand the why rather than the fact that you either won or lost. Because it's the same thing on the flip side. Why did you lose? There's a definite reason every time that you win or lose a trade. The question is, do you know what the reason is? And most of the time, the answer is going to be no. Every time that I take a trade, I know that I'm going to win. Doesn't that sound insane? It's like, well, Mark, what do you mean? You can't say that. I just said it. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to do that too. Well, how? Because the market's going to tell me when. If the market tells me anything that says you might lose, I'm not trading at all. Well, you know what? You might could lose this one. I'll leave it and watch it. The person that's thirsty and anxious, they're gonna take that trade. Because to them, they've seen the trade before. Oh, I've seen this before. Yeah, this right here should hold. Really? Okay. Worst thing that can happen to them is it does hold. Why? They're going to take the same damn trade again, and they're going to keep taking that trade until they get smacked by the market. Because they don't understand why they're taking the trade. They're just going off of the memory of the last time that they took the trade and won. That's not enough. That's not enough. What if the environment this time is different? And what if it's a slight difference? What if there's a slight bit of instability in the market that you see but you don't want to pay attention to because you want to take that trade again because you're used to the trade? This is what people be doing, and they get caught out there. You saw that subtle movement. You saw it. You try to act like you don't see it because you're thirsty to take the trade. And you feel like, nah, I could take it. I'm going to get away with it again. Okay. Okay. And then that'll be the same trade when you scaled up. And you'll be like, damn. I just scaled up and I got hit. Yeah. That's how it goes, man. That's how it goes. That's why it's better to just wait for the market to tell you everything. And the market will tell you everything. It's literally going to tell you all the information that you need at the time to know what the environment is so that you can be in position to recognize what the behavior is, and then you can focus. See? Once you know and you understand these things, now you can focus. Remember that the majority of the time you're not trading. Not. N-O-T. You're not trading most of the time. So your job is to just remain patient and observe in the meantime. Just watch. The more that you do that, the more that the market is actually teaching you. Because you're just sitting down and watching instead of being anxious to trade. Oh, the market was slow. I don't know why I lost that one. The market was slow. What was the behavior like? Oh, well, it was slow and it looked good. What does that mean? How was it moving? See, when I ask that type of question, you should be able to literally tell me, you know what? I did see some speed in there. And you know what? When I lost that trade, it was moving fast. Actually, you're right. It was speeding up. See, and this is another thing, too, that goes on, or I should say that should go on more often. You guys should record. This is for people that like to trade a lot. I know that there's a handful of folks, you know, when you come in, you get excited because you're learning about the market, and it's very exciting to know that you can win. It's very exciting. But don't let your excitement turn into irrational exuberance. Remember that word? Greenspan had used that. Don't let it turn into irrational exuberance. Because when it switches over to that, now you're blinded a little bit. You're exuberant. Your excitement is elevated now, but it's elevated for all the wrong reasons. You're excited feeling that, you can puff your chest out a little bit like, yeah, I got it. I'm going to win this one too. Oh, you didn't take a trade today? Oh, man, I'm 3-0. Mind you, nobody else in the group who's doing it and watching. We all watching the market together. Nobody took a trade. But you went 3-0. And then have no recordings. So all we got from you is that you won 3 trades. But we can't see what the trade looked like. We can't see the environment at the time. How was the market looking? You see what I'm saying? So this is what recording does for us. It educates us. It helps to improve the way that we're seeing the market. Not only that, it's helping you. And don't be scared to be scrutinized by us, because that's what it's for. All of our questions are going to be legitimate questions. No one is trying to take away any of your wins. But you know what will happen, right? You tell us about the wins. You ain't telling us about the loss. When you get slapped, you don't talk about that. And if you do talk about it, it's confession later. It's not that same day, right? It'd be like 2 weeks later. You'd be like, oh, I got a confession. Yeah, 2 weeks ago I actually got slapped, and I had to actually slow down and fall back. See, and because you have to confess it. Why? Because you can't get away from yourself. It's like a dog running from his shadow. You ever see the position of the sun, and the dog is running, and he looking back, he looking at the shadow chasing him, trying to run from it? You can't get away from it. It's you. You running from your shadow. Oh, my goodness. Matthew said, follow your GPS process, and it will tell you exactly when you have reached your destination, the trade. Anything outside of that, you're running blind, even though you may be going to this same location hundreds of times. You haven't taken account for accidents or traffic jams, but your GPS will give you the most efficient way to get there safely. Come on, man. Come on. All right. We're going to get into that now, Anthony. Let's talk about it. So the speed of the market. When you hear me say environment means the speed. Speed means how fast is the market moving. What does that mean, Mark? If you look at the indicative price, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to give you multiple places to see it from. So you can see it up here where it says indicative price. Down here on the chart, you see the black box with the white number in it. That's also the same price. And when you open up a ticket, on the ticket where it says Nadex Indicative Index, there's your indicative price right there as well. Okay? Now, out of the 3, the one you want to focus on is the one on the ticket. And what I'm getting at is down here on the chart, even though this number in the box is the same as the indicative, the movement of it is slightly different than the indicative. The indicative here on the binary ladder and the indicative price on the ticket, they are the exact same thing. They move the exact same way. Down here on the chart, this moves different. So you never go by the chart number when it comes to actually studying and observing the speed of the price. You're going to do that from the ticket. So you need to have a ticket up and open when you're at the moment of measuring speed. And this is how we measure the speed. Look at this number. See right now, 27511. The last digit of the number is called the micro pip. That number is going to change. Keep watching. It's at 1 now. It's going to change. See how it went to 2? It's at 2 now. It went from 1 to 2. It just moved up by 1. It's at 2 now. It's going to change again. See how it went to 3? It just moved up again by 1. So it just moved twice. And each time that it moved, it changed by 1. Now, that 1, that's actually the amount of movement that we want to see every time it does move. So we actually want the speed 1 to be the dominant speed. So every time that the price moves, we want to see 1. We want to see it change by 1 more frequently than any other number. Now, if there was speed in the market right now, this could be changing by multiple numbers. It could be changing by 2s. It could be changing by 3s. It could be changing by whatever that's over 1 or is 1. Okay? So the fact that the speed is determined by the amount of micropips that it changes by is letting you know that that's what the speed currently is. If it's moving more frequently with a number higher than 1, then it's too fast. There's too much speed in the market. Okay? You want to see a dominant speed of 1 micropip. That's how we determine speed. And that's what our requirement is, 1 micropip. Okay? Anytime that I make a reference to environment or phase 1, that's speed. That's speed, and that's how you determine how much speed is in the market. Now, once we see that there is a dominant speed of 1 micropip, phase 1 is confirmed. Our environment. We basically just recognize what the environment is by seeing that there's 1 micropip of dominant speed. That's the environment. Slow condition. Okay? Then we move on to behavior. Now, behavior is how is the price actually moving. Speed was how fast is the price moving. Right? We just covered that. How fast is it moving? Oh, it's moving at a dominant speed of 1. Okay, cool. We got a slow condition. Beautiful. What's the behavior? Behavior means how is the price moving. Now, this is where it gets interesting, and this is where it gets to be at a point that requires a lot more focus on your part, because you basically need to recognize that the movement is what we would want the price to be doing if we were in a trade. This is how you're going to remember the behavior that you want to see. I'm going to give you the example right now. Let's use this line right here where my mouse is, 27.53. Let's say right now we were in a trade, right? Let's say we were in this trade right now. The price is underneath the line. We know that if we're going to win this trade, price has to stay underneath the line. So if you know that, and you're in this trade, how do you want the price to move relative to this line? Would you want it to do what you see it doing now? You see how the price is moving up towards the line? Is that what you would want it to do if you were in the trade? What's the answer to that question? Price is moving towards the line. Is that what you want? Yes? No? Maybe so? Corey said no. Very good. And that's who I wanted to answer. I wanted one of the newbies to answer. Corey, no. Anthony, no. Exactly. So if you know that that's not how you want the price to move, then that's not the behavior that you would want to see relative to the line. Now, let's look at it a little differently. Let's say in that same example that we were in the trade for this line, the bottom one, the one under where the price was, 27.51. If you were in this option, you see how the price just moved? It moved up, and it actually moved how relative to this line? How did it move relative to this line? Like, describe it. As a matter of fact, only Corey and Anthony. Just now, this price right here during this candle, how did the price move relative to the line underneath the candle? Describe it for me. Give me that cord over there, the white one.
Oh, the big one?
Yeah, the big one. Anthony said it moved above the line and it held. Exactly. Corey said it moved up. Exactly. Now, see, depending on which option you're in, the behavior was actually what you wanted it to be, or it was not what you wanted it to be. If you were selling, that's not what you would want to see. If you were buying, that is what you would want to see. But I want you to understand, listen to what Anthony actually said. He said it moved above the line and it held. You see? He said it held. It's important that you understand that, because it means that not only did the price move away from your line, that's what you wanted to do. Remember, if you were in this trade and you bought, you're going to win the trade by the price staying above. So if it's moving away from the line, that's exactly what you want. But on top of that, when it moves away from the line, you want it to stay away from the line. So wherever it moves to, you actually want it to hold the position that it moves to. Does that make sense? This is behavior. That's how you want the price to move. If you were in that trade, that is how you would want the price to move. So therefore, that's the behavior that we always want to see. You want to see the behavior that would represent a solid win if you were in the trade. If you were in the relative trade. So for purposes of this example, if you were buying, and for this line, the fact that price moved up, and away, and it stayed away, that is exactly what you would want to see. That's the behavior that you want to see. That's how you want the price to move. You want it to move away from the line, and you want it to hold. So now we're gonna look at the same example, but we're gonna do it without a line. Mentally, what if there was no line there? How would you want price to move as far as behavior? Describe it. Remember, there's no line to use as a reference. So without the line, describe how you would want the price to actually move. Like, describe it. And again, Anthony and Corey, how do you want price to move? How do you want the price to move? Walker don't have no patience for y'all at all. Anthony said, if buying, I would check the indicative and want it to move up and away, or the opposite is selling. Right. But remember, Anthony, you don't have a buy or sell to use as a reference. So just describe how you would want price to move. Price being isolated by itself. Describe how you want price to move. By itself. You don't have a buy or sell. I know you tried. It was just itching. He was like, nah, I gotta scratch this itch. Y'all killing me. Yes, but no. Because what is 1 micropip at a time describe? And only Anthony answer. Because this is good. What we're doing right now, I love this. What does that describe? What did you just describe? You just said 1 micropip at a time. What did you just describe? He said what you mentioned in the indicative. Right. So 1 micropip at a time, 1 micropip at a time describes speed. But right now, I'm asking you about behavior. So speed means how fast. What you just said is the answer to that question. How fast is it moving? It's moving 1 micropip at a time. That's speed. Now, if I ask you, well, how is it moving? What would your answer be? What would your response be to that? If I said, well, how is it moving? Not how fast. How is it moving? And that's okay. Listen to what he said. He said, I need to learn a little more to answer that. I love that. That's self-awareness. See, and it's okay to answer like that. That's fine. It's not, it ain't nothing to feel funny about or nothing. If you need more, that's why we're training on it, because whatever it is that you need at the time, that's what we're going to focus our attention on. So now, let's go into it. Behavior, once again, it just simply means if you were to take away the direction altogether, you need to just simply be able to describe how the price is moving. So what I'm going to do, and even though you guys are new, and this, you're thinking that this is going to be challenging, but it's not. You're going to actually get this. Watch this. I'm going to take the chart away completely. And you're going to do it just by looking at the indicative price. You see where my mouse is? You see the price? Now, we're going to break this down. First, and before I do that, let's go back to the chart for one more moment so that I understand, so I actually bring your attention to the time of when you're going to do this. Now, Anthony, out of the whole 5-minute binary, what is the most important time out of the whole 5-minute binary? Now, let me just break something down before you answer that. Each of these red candles represent 1 minute out of the 5 minutes. Like this one right here, this is the first minute of the current binary, the 10:30. This is the first minute, this is the second minute, this is the third minute. We got 2 more minutes left. The fourth one will go here, and then the last one will go here. Okay? We're currently in the third one. That's why you keep seeing this move. See how the candle keeps moving? We're in the third minute right now. Out of the whole 5 minutes, what's the most important time out the binary? Boom. Look at what he said. He says probably the last minute. Now, why would you say that? I want to hear your response to this. Why did you say the last minute? Ooh. Wow. You'll see what he said, right? He said it's about where the price ends up. See, all right. Now, that response was like awesome because you even went ahead of where I was going. You're absolutely right. It's where the only thing that matters is where the price ends. What decides the winner and the loser? Where the price ends. That's why the last minute is the most important time out the binary. The last minute. Matter of fact, we're there right now. This right here is the last minute. So let's just look at this right now. Let's look at it. It started at 27.51. Matter of fact, I'm going to take the chart away. It started at 27.51. Now it's at 27.508. Right? I just want you, as I'm saying the numbers, just remember the numbers. So far, it's been as high as 51. It's been as low as 508. High as 51, low as 508. It's back up to 51. Low as 508. It's been high as 51. It's been high as 51.1, 51.2, 51.3, 51.5, 51.7. It ended at 51.7. Now, it ended at 51.7. What was it as low as? 08, right? So it was as high as 517, as low as 508. Now, I want you to tell me, based on that information, you know that it started at 5.1. It started at 5.1. It went as low as 508, and it went as high as 517. Based on where the price ended, is that the behavior that you would want to actually see? It moved in that one direction going up, and as it moved up, where did it end? Did it end where it went to, or did it do something else? What did it go as high as? When as high as 517, right? Okay. Now, and not even thinking about buy or sell or nothing. I'm just talking about just the price movement. It went as high as 517. Started at 511. So 511 represents the start point. Relative to where it started from, it ended at the furthest away from 511 that it went to, which was 517. So now, Anthony, how you think the candle looks on the chart? First of all, what color is it? And describe how the candle would look. And if you don't know, you can say that too. I just want to. I'm digging into you right now because you have a grasp on it that I'm trying to dig out for new people, because you're a new person and the way that you're thinking is new, but you're actually grasping the concepts also. So I want to focus on what you're doing right now, because this is going to help a lot of other people, and it's going to help you. So based on that, we just determined it started at 511, went as high as 517, and it ended at 517. How that candle look? Listen to what he just said. Green candle with long to the buy side. So is the candle solid, you think, or does it have a wick on it? And if it does have a wick, where would the wick be? Let's go over the numbers again. Started at 511, went as low as 508, went as high as 517, and it ended at 517. How would the candle look? Solid candle? You said green. Solid green? And if there's a wick, Where's the wick? And again, if you don't know, say that too. Look at what he says. Green, wick on the bottom and solid to the top. Which one was that? That was the 1030, right? So that was the 1029 candle. Someone confirm that for me before I pull the chart up. Is that the 1029 that we're talking about? Okay. So the 1029 should be green, a little wick on the bottom, and a solid on the top. Let's see. Look. Little wick on the bottom, solid on the top, green. This is understanding behavior. What you just did without this. You just did this without the chart. See, like this is not a game. It's not a game. Like you really are learning how to do this for real. Like just the thought of you being able to do that, like you should have goosebumps because you're doing something that other people are not able to do, and it's going to be the reason why you're going to be able to do what other people are not able to do. Does that make sense? You're doing what other people can't do, which means you're going to do what other people can't do. Like win all the time. Other people can't do that. He said, mic drop if I had a mic. Come on, man. This is how powerful this really is. And this is why it's exciting. See, this is you understanding the market. So in that example, what we literally did was we interpreted the behavior. We were able to identify how the candle would even look. So not only did we understand how the price moved, but we understand how the candle on the chart would look as a result of how the price moved, without the chart being up, which lets you know that you're ahead of the chart. What you're doing, you can do without the chart. You're looking at the actual price itself. So when we talk about behavior and environment, and I ask you, well, what's the environment like? Well, actually, Mark, right now it's too fast. As soon as you say that, I know exactly what you're talking about. If you say, well, you know what, the environment is beautiful, but right now the behavior is funny looking. As soon as you say funny looking, I know that the market is jerking. Without even looking, because you've observed it. So now let's talk about jerk, so that you understand the difference between a jerk and what it is that we actually want to see. So what we want to see is that same type of movement where it moves to the furthest point away that it moves to, and it stays. And we have a name for it. It's called move and hold. Just like a little while ago when Anthony said, yeah, it actually moved away and it held. Yes, move and hold. That's the name for the behavior that we want to see. Move and hold. And it describes the movement. Price is moving, and wherever it's moving to, it's staying there. That's the same behavior that you would want if you were in a trade. You wouldn't want the price to move and then move back, would you? If it moved away, if it's moving down and away, do you want it to move back up? No. Why? Because that movement would be a threat to your trade. You see? So by us recognizing in advance what the behavior is, and identifying the environment that we're in so we know whether or not we're actually able to see the behavior. And I don't want to get too far ahead of the point that I'm making, but I want you to understand how it transitions into where I'm going. When the market is too fast, you don't see the real behavior. Why am I saying that? Anytime something has speed in it, it's exaggerated, right? Think about a big boat. I know Adam likes this because he said he liked this analogy earlier on the live. And this is an excellent analogy. Just check this out. You on a big cruise ship. The faster the boat goes, can that boat stop on a dime? Let's say it's moving 50 knots. How long is it going to take for the boat to stop? It's going to take a while. Why? Because it's big, it's massive, and the speed is something that you can't just stop. It transitions, it gradually slows down. The bigger that it is, the longer it takes. So this is the perfect analogy to use for speed in the market because the speed is exaggerating the movement. It's just like if the boat is moving at 50 knots, but there's a lot of waves in the ocean. Not only is it moving at 50 knots, it's also going left and right. It's like wobbling. But the faster you go, you don't see the wobble. You don't feel the wobble. The speed is hiding the wobble. Now, slow the boat down. Cut the engines off and slow the boat down. As soon as the boat slows down, you will feel the hell out of the weeble. You feel all of it now. Now you're like, damn, the boat is shaking left to right. You feel that? Now you can feel the movement because the boat slowed down. This is physics. So when something slows down, now you can actually see how it is moving. You couldn't see that before when it was when the speed was there. The speed exaggerates the movement and it hides the actual behavior of the movement. This is why when the market is moving fast, you can't tell what it's actually doing. You just like, damn, it's moving kind of fast. It can be moving fast and jerky, or it can be moving fast and stable. You don't know the difference. All you know is that it's too fast, and that's all you need to know. You see what I'm saying? So you don't have to try to pinpoint, well, damn, it's moving fast. I wonder how it's moving. It don't matter how it's moving because you're not going to know for sure what it's actually doing as far as its behavior until the market slows down. When the market slows down, now you can see the real behavior because the market is slow. It can't hide the behavior anymore. People have always wondered, well, why you always wait for the market to slow down? I'm explaining to you. When the market slows down, you can see the behavior. You see how it's moving. You thought it was jerky just because it was fast. It was not jerky. It was stable. When the market slowed down, now you see the stability. You're like, oh, snap, it is stable. It's holding. Yeah, it's holding. But you couldn't detect that earlier when there was too much speed present. So instead of you trying to guess what the behavior is, with fast-moving momentum in the market, just wait for the market to slow down. That's why the slowdown process, 1 micropip of dominant speed, that's part of our protocol. That's why it's first. It's the first thing you should wait for, the market to slow down. Does this make sense? If any part of what I'm explaining and talking about does not make sense to you, please say that it doesn't make sense to you. Like, just speak on it. If you got a question, ask your question. Okay? environment equals speed. Behavior is the how. So a good way to remember them more in tandem is environment is how fast. Behavior is how is it moving. How fast is it moving? That's your environment. How is the price moving? That's your behavior. Are they the same or are they different? I love this question. Anthony said they're different. How? Give me your interpretation of how they're different. And I know this is going to be good. He says speed references the speed of the micropip. The how is I'm a little fuzzy on that explanation. And I knew that was coming. That's why I said this is going to be good. I knew that he was going to say that. And just the fact that you're able to differentiate the speed from the behavior, that's the first step. That's the first step. So, in fact, if it's easier for you to remember by using it in relation to a strike price, then you do that. So, in other words, if in your mind you got to say, well, behavior means I wanted to move away from my line and stay away. You'll remember that more so, won't you? Like, just say to yourself, here's my line. I want the price to move away from my line and to stay away. In either direction. It don't matter which direction it's in. So let's give a scenario. Let's say that the price of the market positions itself below this line right here. Like you see how right now price is moving under the line, right? If it positions itself under the line, when you're in the last minute of the binary, how would you want the price to move relative to that line? It's underneath the line. Now, how do you want the price to move? Describe it to me relative to this line. It's already under the line. How do you want the price to move? Explain that to me. Describe it. And now I know that you're going to get it. Because this will help it to stick in your mind because it's a definitive way to remember. Dallas said environment is speed. Behavior, is it moving 7, holding plus, is it still moving by 1 NP or not? Behavior don't, and I'm going to go back to that. Let me come back to that, Dallas. Anthony said, I would want the price to move and stay away from my line. Okay, now, so your line is here, and it's under the line. So when you say stay away, what direction are you referring to? It's under the line. When you say stay away, what do you mean by that? Or let me rephrase. When you say move away and stay away, what do you mean by that? It's under the line. Where do you want it to move and stay? Bingo. Listen, look, listen to what he says. Continue away under my line. That's how you're going to remember behavior. Now, Dallas, behavior does not go further than that. Behavior is not the numbers. Behavior is the interpretation of the action. It's the how. It's not the how fast. Remember, the how fast means a number. How fast the market moving? Oh, it's moving 1 micropip per 1 micropip at a time. All right, cool. If I say, well, how is the price moving? That's not associated with the number. How means, how is the price actually moving? Is it moving away and staying away? Is it moving and then coming back? Because we know what that means. What if it moves and by the end of the binary it comes back? Instead of staying away, it actually comes back into the direction that it's coming from. What do we call that? What do we call that, Dallas? Instead of it moving away and staying away, it moves and then it comes back. Dallas says, sorry, that was a mistake. I mean, environment is speed, while behavior is it moving and holding, and also if it's still moving by 1 MP or no. That speed is not the behavior part. That's the speed part. You're doing that in the process, so I understand why you're putting it together like that. But I want you to separate the two. So always use the 1 micropip reference to environment and speed. And always use whether it's moving and holding or it's moving and it's not holding, which would mean that it's jerking. That's going to be under the category of behavior. That way you know that they're two separate things. So behavior is always, well, how is it moving? Oh, well, it's jerking at the end. If somebody says, yeah, it's jerking at the end, it's not holding, what do you know that the market's doing? It's not staying. It's not holding, which means that it's not moving whole, which means that it's not the behavior that we want, which means it's unprofitable behavior, which means that it's not stable. See, when you combine the slow environment with the move and hold behavior, that's like A plus B equals C. Environment plus behavior equals stability. So once you have the two in place, the market is now stable. And the stability that the market presents is going to be the reason why you win. Your ability to detect that there is not stability is going to be the reason why you stay out of trades. And you're not trading at all because you know that the market's not stable. Well, how do you know the market ain't stable? Because it's jerking. Well, what other reason would it not be stable? Because it's too fast. Does that make sense? And now once stability is present, so in other words, you got a slow environment and you got the move and hold that is also dominating the behavior. Notice the key words I'm using. Now I'm focusing on the word dominate because you want the move and hold behavior to dominate the last minute of the binaries that you're watching. This is how you're recognizing that behavior that we want is present. You look at the last minute of the binaries. Remember, we've already looked at the market and the market is slow already. We've determined that. That's why we're now looking at behavior. Because we don't look at behavior until we have confirmed that the speed is slow. So you're never in a moment where you don't know what's happening. Oh, Mark, should I be in phase 2 or should I be in phase 1? What's the market doing? Is it moving fast Yeah, it's kind of fast. You should be in phase 1. Oh, well, market is slow now. All right, well, how's it moving? It's kind of jerking. All right, you in phase 2. You see how simple it is? Like, you either in phase 1 or phase 2, which both have to be confirmed before you go to the next phase. Because the next phase is basically you waiting for the market to get in position and to synchronize or to sync up with the stability that's present. And that's what leads to the permission slip that we wait for, which is Mark's rule, move and hold. And the permission slip itself has an element of behavior present, because the MH in MRMH means move and hold. So that means that when you observe a valid setup that takes place in a slow environment, phase 1, right? Valid setup takes place in a slow environment. Now what has to happen? What has to happen to complete that? You also need behavior. So that means you need move and hold at the end. You see that? You need the move and hold at the end. That completes the trinity. You got all 3 phases now completed. So confirmation of phase 3 is MRMH. Confirmation of phase 3 will be your MRMH. And then once you have MRMH, that's permission now to take the next valid setup that occurs, as long as the market is still in a slow condition and is still presenting the right behavior. Because it's just simply the market syncing up. In other words, market is getting in position relative to a strike price, which is going to validate all of your parameters, right? Your distance and your speed, no backtick, option pricing is there, it's favorable, boom. Valid trade sets up, boom. Move and hold at the end, MRMH, permission. Now you have permission, now what has to happen? Market needs to remain slow, right? Valid trade needs to set up. If the valid trade doesn't set up, look at the behavior at the end. Make sure that the move hold is still dominating. Boom, move and hold still dominating. Phase 1, phase 2 still in place. You're waiting for a follow-through trade to come. Now the market just simply needs to get in position and sync up. If it does that, now you're going to have a valid setup after. This is after MRMH. Now you have a valid setup that takes place at the right time. How you know it's the right time? Market is slow, and we know that move and hold is dominating as far as behavior goes. Now the follow-through trade comes. This is after MRMH. We've already observed an actual trade take place at the right time in the right environment. We've witnessed that. That's called Mark's rule, move and hold. And that's funny, you asking, and I'm saying MRMH is Mark's rule, move and hold. And all it just means is that a valid trade is setting up, and at the end of that setup, the behavior is move and hold when that binary completes. That gives you permission right there. But it's not blind permission. It's not saying, yeah, you gotta do whatever you want to, player. No, it don't mean that. It means as long as the environment remains intact and the behavior remains in place, when the next valid trade sets up, you pull the trigger. See how that works? So you're waiting for MRMH, and then for the follow-through, you're waiting for a valid trade to set up, as long as environment and behavior are still in place. If anything happens in between there, you're going to detect it, and it's going to throw off what we're waiting to see. Whatever piece is removed from the puzzle, we got to wait for the piece to be put back. It might be speed. What if the market speeds up after MRMH? Oh, the market's moving too fast. All right, well, it's moving fast, but make sure that you Watch the end of the binaries. Why? Because you want to know if the behavior is still intact. Speed might kick in, behavior might remain. So that means when speed slows down, behavior is still there. And the behavior is still there, and now a trade sets up, bang. That's going to be a follow-through trade. So, I mean, you know, like with anything, we're talking about it, and we're going through scenarios and examples of it because we're waiting for the market to present it. Like, this is just what we always do all the time. And eventually the market does. So it's your understanding of the process and you getting good at the execution of the process that's going to make it easier for you to spot when it happens. Yeah, and I'm glad that you're actually saying things like that because those are nuances. When you see bursts of speed, that's definitely a nuance because it's letting you know that there is speed present, but it's just not dominating at the moment, but it's something that you need to look at. Usually it is followed by a stall. Like usually you'll see the market stall. It'll just not move. And out of nowhere it'll pop. 3, 4, 5 micropips. Boom. Out of nowhere. And you're just like, well, damn, what the hell was that? That's a speed burst. And there are times when you can have a speed burst, but stability's still there. So it just happened to be a burst of speed, but there was still stability present in the market. But you don't got to worry about everything right now, of course. I'm just going through different examples because these are different things that you're going to see and you're going to come across. And just the fact that we talk about it and we reinforce it, your brain is recording. Like this is another element of the way that we train. Even if you don't get nothing right now, you're going to get everything over time. It's all going to make sense. All the light bulbs are going to come on. You're going to start to understand. You know, that's the easy part. The easy part is understanding this. The hard part is controlling yourself. That's when you really get into the real challenge. This is a piece of cake because this is so repetitive that, you know, you just get it. It's only a matter of time. You're going to get it. But dealing with you, that's not a cakewalk. I'll tell you that right now. You don't know yet how impatient you are. You don't know yet. The market's going to let you know. You'll know soon. You will know soon. I guarantee you that. Anthony says, so it looks like the market for the last few minutes has been going a little sideways. And eventually you'll stop even using that type of terminology. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I know what you mean. Like when you say sideways, in other words, it's not moving substantially in either direction. But you'll come to find that direction doesn't matter. What do you mean, Mark? How could you say that? It does not matter to the degree of helping you to make a decision as to whether or not you should trade. It has no influence on whether you should trade or not. The only time direction comes into play is during the last minute of the binary when a potential trade could set up. You'll just need to know where the market is positioned. Is it positioned above or below the strike price? If it is positioned, now the parameters are applied. Distance, speed, no backtick, favorable option pricing. See, when all of those things come into play, now we're getting somewhere because this means that the market is actually syncing up. It's getting in position and it's presenting good behavior, obviously, because it's going to validate your parameters. And now we just need to know, well, is it going to finish? It's set up. Is it going to finish? Boom. Move and hold at the end, finishes. Now you got permission. That's the market's way of letting you know that everything that you're waiting for is now here for the time being. And the market may decide to do something else. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get a follow-through trade after MRMH. But MRMH is the first step. And one more thing I would like to say about MRMH and what it does for you, especially if you're new. What MRMH is going to do for you, it is going to force you to develop patience. It's going to force you to do it. It's going to force you to remain disciplined. Because if that's all you wait to see, it means that you're not doing anything until the market is presenting everything that we need to see. Environment, behavior, and the parameters being validated by the market being in the correct position and having the right timing. Remember, that's what I was talking about earlier in the training. It all comes down to timing. You could take a great trade at the wrong time and lose. And on the contrary, you could take a terrible trade at the right time and end up winning the trade. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just saying, which side would you rather be in? Would you rather be trading at the right time? Or would you rather wait for the best trade in your opinion? Like, which one? Well, Mark, I want the good trade. All right, that's why you'll probably end up losing. Because you're picking a trade over the right environment and behavior to be present in the market. And that's why people lose now. They don't know. Behavior and environment is everything. That's how you nail the timing. Your environment got to be right. Behavior got to be right. If it ain't, you're going to lose more than likely. Holly said, but isn't there a pre-MRMH where we have to observe 3 move holds the end before? Need to nail that down. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, Holly. That is a good way to look at it. When you see 3 consistent move and holds, once you have confirmed that the market is slow, then you can proceed to phase 3. Meaning that at that point, now you know that the move and hold behavior is present. And now that it is present, you can move on to the parameters. And remember that the only way that parameters will be validated is if the market positions itself properly and then follows through with syncing up at the same time. So there's never a time that we're not dependent on the market. We're always dependent on the market. You're never in control of the market. You're in control of the way you interpret the market. That's why we just always are listening. We always on the listening end of the market. The market gonna tell us everything. Anthony says strike is the price on the left side of the screen listed in the pair being traded. Yeah, the number that's right next to the symbol. So, for example, GBP USD and then 27.49, that's a strike price. 27.47, that's a strike price. And those prices are represented by the black horizontal lines going across. So, for example, this is 27.49, this is 47, 45, 43, and 41. Those are your strikes. Very good questions. Matthew said behavior and environment are why you win. Bingo. Now, like, do you guys understand that? You don't win because you picked a good trade. You win because you picked to trade at the right time. You decided to take a trade at the right time. And when you have a good trade at the right time, that's the flawless victory. That's why I said that this is why MRMH forces you to be patient and to develop discipline. Because if that's all you do is follow the protocol, inherently patience and discipline are built into that. You're not going to get impatient and then, try to rush the process and then cheat. You see the market is moving too fast, you decide to go try to take a trade. You're not going to do that. Anthony said, further on the explanation of phase 1 to 3. Phase 1 is environment. What's environment, Anthony? We're going to shave the fuzz right now. Phase 1, bingo. Look at what you said. Speed. So environment is speed, right? What's phase 2? What do you ask after you say, well, how fast is the market moving? What's the next question? Bingo. Behavior. How is the market moving? Those are phases 1 and 2. Environment and behavior. Or speed and behavior, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to call it. Phase 3 are the rules for validating an entry during the right environment with the right behavior present. That's why we do all of this. Because you want to know in advance that you're in the right environment with the right behavior before you even consider applying the rules that will validate an entry. Because the entry doesn't matter if our timing is off. We need to have our timing precise. That's why we need to properly identify the confirmation of phases 1 and 2. Phase 1, market is 1 micropip dominant speed, boom. Slow condition. Yes, we got it. Phase 2, just like Holly said a moment ago, you see 3 move holds, 3 consecutive move holds while the market is in a slow condition. That confirms phase 2. That confirms phase 2. Now, from that point going forward, now you can begin to apply the rules or the parameters. That's phase 3. Phase 3 is the rules or the parameters. That's where we get into 1:30 on the clock, at which point we identify again the speed. All it is a confirmation of what we already know, because we did that part already. We already know we're in a slow condition. So at 1:30, we know we're going to see 1 micropip of speed if the speed is still 1 micropip. We'll see that. What's after 1:30? What's the next parameter? What is the next parameter? Anthony said, writing this down. Give me a moment. Hi to any of us? Yeah, anybody. Because I'm not sure if Anthony is that familiar just yet with the whole process, just based on his line of questioning. So yeah, we can just go through it. So after 1:30, where we identify and confirm again that we have 1 micropip, what's the next parameter? What's after 1:30? Charles said for back. Charles said back picks. It's back ticks with a T, like a tick in the market. And no, we're not at back tick yet. The next one is what Holly just said, 5 plus 1. 5 plus 1 means that we want to see a minimum of 5 micropips away from the strike price that is in play at the time. So under the minute mark, the price of the market needs to get in position relative to the strike price by a minimum of 5 micropips. Minimum of 5 micropips. Okay? If let's say it starts at 3. In other words, under a minute mark, let's say it's 3 micropips above in position. What does the price have to do in order to confirm the 5 micropips of distance? What does price literally have to do in order to confirm 5? Anthony said go up to 8. No. It started at 3, meaning that it's only 3 away from the line at the start of the minute. And our minimum is 5. So where would it need to go from 3 in order to give us the minimum? Bingo. It would need to go up by 2. Exactly. And it would need to go up by 2, 1 micropip at a time. So you don't want to see a jump of 2. You would want to see from 3 to 4 and then from 4 to 5. Now, after you get 5, what do you want to see next? What do you want to see after you have your minimum of 5? Charles, 1 more. Bingo. So you want to see another one. You want to see a plus 1. So you got the minimum at 5, and then you want to see another plus 1, and that is once again going to confirm speed again. So the plus 1 is the speed confirmation for the second time. The first time was at 1:30. 1:30, we measured speed again. We confirmed that speed was still intact from the 1:30 mark down to the minute mark. At the minute mark, in the scenario that we're going through now, you start out at 3 micropips away from the line. You need 2 to give you 5. Market gives you 2 more, you get to 5. Now you need another plus 1 to confirm again that the speed is still 1 micropip. Boom, you get the plus 1. So now you got 5 plus 1. What's the next parameter? What's next? Dallas said price. No. And I know what you mean. You're talking about option pricing, right? Nope, not yet. Almost. What do we look at right before that? Once we get 5 plus 1, what do we want to make sure that the market does not do? When you get that plus 1, what do you want to make sure that the price does not do? Anthony says reverse. Exactly. Dallas. Bingo. No back tick. No back tick. That means you do not want to see 5 plus 1 and then minus 1. You want to see 5 plus 1 and then that's it, or another plus 1. And if it moves again, another plus 1, like that. You want your speed to be plus 1 only, 1 micropip, if it's moving. If it's not moving, it could just stay where it is. But do not move minus 1 or minus anything. That is what's called a back tick. Now, assuming that you don't have a back tick, then you move on to what, Dallas? After no back tick. There we go. Now we at option pricing. And this is where it culminates, because this is the last parameter. Option pricing is the last part of this process. And what you want to see with option pricing is that it's favorable. And favorable simply means that you're using the threshold numbers, 83 and 17. And if you're buying, for example, 83 means that you want the price to be less than 83. So let's say that it started around 72. You're seeing 72, 75, 78, 79, 81. You see 81, you know that you're approaching 83. Goes from 81 and hits 83.50. The moment that it hits 83.50, it's now right at the threshold, and it's also priced out. So let's say 83.50 and then 85. So when it hits 85, you look at the clock and you see how much time is left on the clock, and you note that, because you're going to use that information if this ends up being MRMH. Now, at this point, we do that process. You see that the option price priced out now. It's above 83. Let's say that the amount of time left on the clock was 41 seconds. What does the market now have to do in order to give us MRMH? So far, it has validated all of the parameters. Now, what does it have to do in order to give us MRMH? Anthony says, move in the direction and hold, or step up 1 micropip at a time. Yes. And the second part of what you're saying, you would want to precede the first part, because by the end of the binary, you want it to hold. So if it's moving, yes, you would want it to step or to move at 1 micropip. But now I'm going to say something, and I don't want to confuse you by saying it, but I have to say it because you're going to see it. After the parameters are validated, the speed of the market may change. There may even be a backtick. There could be a number of things that go on. What you're waiting to see is that by the end of the binary, that the price holds. Regardless of whether speed came, it might have accelerated after you went through the parameters and it validated, and that's fine because you have no control over that. And also, because we'll continue to observe, we're going to stay on top of the market anyway. So it's not like once we get MRMH, we just take in whatever trade comes. That's not what we do. We continue the observation process, period, even after MRMH. So in order to get the MRMH, at the end of that binary, when this trade validates, you need the behavior at the end to be moving whole. And yes, it will close above the binary if you're buying in order to give you the MRMH, because everything validated for the buy. So the trade set up, it validated, and then the behavior at the end was moving whole. and that represents MRMH, and that's the permission slip. That right there is permission. So now once you have permission, then we go rinse and repeat. Same process. We just make sure everything is still in place. And once you do that, you're just going to wait for the next valid trade to set up. That's it. Once the next valid trade sets up, you're now in the right time. You're doing it at the right time. So you're going to take a valid trade at the right time, and that's going to be a winning trade. And that's what the permission slip prepares you for. So instead of you trying to isolate the timing of everything that we just did on your own, you don't have to do it on your own. MRMH does it for you. Once MRMH is present, it's letting you know that the market just did it all. The market followed through with everything for that binary, and now you have permission. Now, whether the market remains in the environment and behavior, that's a different question. It may and it may not. But either way, it does not matter because you're going to be able to interpret whatever it's doing. And you are prepared to take the valid trade that may set up, or it might be multiple trades. We might end up with clusters. So there's a plethora of different scenarios that can take place. Market does what it wants to do all the time, but our job is just to be mindful of what it's doing and to stay on top of it. That's it. And the better at the process that we become, then the easier that the whole thing becomes for you. And it's just time and experience. Anthony says, I'm unclear then when to actually select the ticket if we are watching for the MRMH being so close to the expiry, starting our confirmation at 1:30 into the move, or did I miss that? When you say select the ticket, what do you mean by that? So I understand the context of your question. So you want to know when to pull the ticket up? Is that what you're asking? Good practice is to pull it up at the minute 30 mark. So actually a little bit before that. Let's say 2 minutes. When you see 2 minutes left on the clock, pull up a ticket. And then go through the process. When I say the process, I mean the whole protocol. You can do everything from the ticket. Like if I didn't have this up right now, I could just open up a ticket and I can look at everything. I could pull this up right here. And I would be able to see how much time is left, where the price is. I'm seeing my option pricing. And this is not for me to trade. This is for me to observe. And I'm able to observe everything. I see everything that's going on from right here. So a good practice, right at the 2 minute mark, you pull up a ticket, and then you run the protocol. Make sure phase 1 is confirmed. You'll already know whether phase 2 is confirmed because that behavior will already be present. And then when you get to the point where you run the parameters, you know that that's starting at 1:30. But you already got your ticket up. So you were already prepared. So 1:30 comes, boom. Reconfirmation of speed. Minute mark comes, apply the parameters. 5 micropips of distance. You need the +1 to reconfirm speed again. No backtick. Make sure the price is not moving back towards the strike. And then favorable pricing on the option. You look and see how long the favorable pricing lasts for. When the price is out, you look at the clock. See how much time is left up here. And you take note of that. And that's going to be information that you carry through to the timing of if and when a follow-through trade comes. Because like I said, it may come, it may not. But you are prepared either way. You'll know whether it comes or not. And that's the beauty of this process. It simplifies everything to the point where you don't have to guess. When you run the process, it unfolds. Anthony says, once the ticket is up, it's here that you can select buy or sell then. Yes, you can. But remember that you are observing. So you're going to just watch. Like let me close this. So right now we at around 1:30. I already know that we're priced out. Like without even looking at anything really, I know that we're priced out. So the fact that we're already priced out, that means that the parameters are disqualified. Or I should say the parameter process. Something, the market disqualified this particular option or this particular binary. It disqualified it based on the parameters. If it's priced out, it's DQ'd. Yes, exactly. That's Matthew was ill. He said no need to get caught up in the brochure if the permission slip hasn't been signed yet. There you go. Yep. But these are good questions, Anthony. These are excellent questions. Like I always say, you know, the questions that come from new folks help to bring clarity to just different points that is going to help other people. So somebody else is going to listen to this training and they're going to get a bunch of clarity. And the questions that might come up that they're asking that sound like yours, they'll be getting the answers to them just by this training, you know, as an example. And there's hundreds of these. There's hundreds of these, so there's like answers everywhere. Can you explain being priced out? Anthony, playing no good. Priced out just simply means if you're buying, price is over 83. If you're selling, price is under 17. Anthony, how many times did you watch number 301? And do not say once. How many times have you watched video number 301 in the playlist? He said, I have it queued up and we'll listen after training tonight. Okay. So that means once. Or none. Right. Am I right? Okay, so you didn't get there yet. All right. And that's fine. I could tell by what you were asking. That's why I asked you. But that's cool, though. That's cool. 301 is going to clear up everything, like along the lines of what you're asking. But I actually appreciate these questions because these are questions that someone will have even after watching 301. And they got answered on tonight's training. So that's valuable. Definitely appreciate it. Yep. Price out is above 83 if you're buying and below 17 if you're selling. Yep. Favorable pricing would be below 83 if you're buying and above 17 if you're selling. But what I just said is going to be said to you in number 301 multiple times and with even more clarity because I focused on it in that training. All right, so this was good tonight. This was good. I didn't mind going a little longer because we didn't have training last night, so didn't mind. But you realize it's 11:30 Eastern time, right? Come on, man. You're messing with my cereal time. Matthew said, new folks, try to remember not to get ahead of yourself Master one step before moving on to the next. It will save you confusion. Yes, it will. Yep. Very good, gentlemen. Very, very good. And ladies. All right, so once again, just more of the same. Video number 301 on repeat. If you have not watched 336, I want you to watch that first and then follow that up with number 301 all the time. Well, Mark, how many times should I watch it? Until I tell you to stop. And I'm not going to tell you to stop, so that means just watch it all the time. Just keep it on repeat. Even if you watch other trainings, okay? Forever, ever. Yes, sir. I lost track of how many times I watched it. That's what my goal was, because I was able to count how many times I watched it, but I lost track. That's what I wanted to do. I literally don't know. I've watched it hundreds of times. So that's a beautiful thing. Tonight's training should be available within about a half hour or so in the playlist. If you have not received the playlist as of yet, I will make sure that I get that to you. I know that I didn't send it to Corey yet, so I'll make sure he gets it. We'll be back on training tomorrow night, same time, same place. And make sure that if you have any concerns or questions about anything, ask in the group chat. Okay, that's a very valuable resource available to you. The group chat is, goodness, it's powerful, man. Whatever you need is in there. All right, so I will see you guys momentarily in the group chat, and I'll see you back on training tomorrow night, same time, same place. And as always, love, peace, and soul. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I appreciate you, Anthony, for the questions, definitely. I'm glad that you were as engaged as you were. Definitely appreciate that. All right, everybody. Good night.